and moving on to Act 2 of my life.
I am unmuted. Deborah.
So Mr. Herring, do you want to call our meeting to order?
Be happy to call this meeting of the South Fulton Historic Preservation Committee to order. Do we have any minutes to review from our former meeting? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, please call our meeting to order.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would like to call this meeting to order of the South Fulton Historic Preservation Committee. Do we have any minutes from our last meeting to review?
Oh, I forgot about that. So I can send those to you via email and we can approve the minutes from last meeting and this meeting at the same time, if that's okay with you guys.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Apologize. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I apologize for being a little late getting in. I kept getting clicked out trying to call in. So hope everybody's doing well.
Doing well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
I assume we have Marissa and Dana with us.
Yes, we're both here.
Yes.
Great, good to have you on board. Thank you.
And from the planning team, Nathan and Christina.
Oh, great, super.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Greetings, hello. It might be helpful if we do quick introductions. I know Nathan and I are both relatively new to the city, probably around 2 months for me and a little less for Nathan. So
That's right.
Helpful, if we just go around and do quick introductions, if you don't mind, Sir Chair.
That sounds like a good idea. Go ahead, if you would, give us a little background on who you are and what positions you're filling with the city.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Christina Cummings, and I joined the city of South Fulton about 2 months ago as the Deputy Director for Community Development and Regulatory Affairs. I came most recently from the city of Atlanta, where I served as the Director of Operations and the Director of Housing and Community Development. So I'm excited to be here. I did a lot of federal programs work, so historic preservation is kind of in my wheelhouse because you can't get federal funds without making sure you do your environmental clearances as well as your Section 106. So I'm excited to be here and thank you guys so much for your service to this commission.
Hey everyone, I'm Nathan Lombardo. I've started about a week after Christina, so I'm just as new. I'm the new Planning and Zoning Administrator, which is, I believe, is a new title. I'm sure some of the duties have been done before, but I have a background in city management, in planning and zoning and economic development. I am absolutely thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to the work this commission here is going to be doing.
Well, Nathan and Christina, glad to have you on board. Did y'all have a chance to meet some of the rest of the committee while I was coming on?
We have not. So if we could, meet all of the commissioners, that would be fantastic.
All right. As we can start, whoever wants to jump in first. My name is Storm Mitchell. I've been involved with the creation of the city of South Fulton from the original back in 2005. And I've lived in the community for 50 plus years. So I have a little bit of knowledge and a background of what's gone on for some time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lana Nadeau. My background is director and managing in healthcare facilities, Emory and Children's Healthcare, and teaching with different colleges and universities. And I have a background in real estate. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sybil Townsend, and I represent District 2. I have a background in higher education and career development and currently work for a university here in the Atlanta area and support them nationally as well. Thank you.
I guess I'll go next. And my name is Shakia Gus Holloway, and I am a native to Atlanta, but I've been in the South Fulton area for about 3.5 years. And I have a background in program management and history with nonprofits and government.
I think that's everyone. We can keep moving on.
No, wait, we're missing Miss Ferguson. Did you get a chance to introduce yourself?
She put notes in. I think she took herself off mute, so we may be able to hear her now. Ms. Ferguson, are you able to speak? If you hover over that button that looks like a microphone at the bottom and click it off, it should allow you to speak and unmute yourself.
Okay, it says that she's unable to, she can hear, but she's unable to that she will write in any votes. And so we can proceed next with the roll call if you guys are ready.
Okay.
Okay. Miss Shakia Gus?
Yes, I'm here.
Dr. Lynn Aniti?
Present.
Sybil Townsend?
Present.
Dr. John Herring?
Present.
Mr. Charles Storm Mitchell?
Here.
Miss Carmen Hollowell Ferguson? Jeffrey Benoit, District 6. Elizabeth Miller? Okay, I believe we have a quorum.
Good enough. Real quick, I think the first order of business was to discuss whether or not we wanted to pursue updating our ordinance to comply with the state regulation.
Yes.
I know that Dr. Herring had attended a meeting and brought back some information that would have been helpful to us relative to the advantages. I did not hear that Dr. Herring was on.
I'm here. I
You are?
think
Excuse me.
yeah, I think the
Okay.
attorney has already implemented those changes. In an earlier discussion she was on, and I might be in error, but I think those changes have been implemented. Or incorporated, I should say.
Good. Okay. Well, I mean, does anybody have any questions as to what was going on with that?
Well, we
Yeah.
had prepared a presentation to go over today. And so we can summarize the presentation that discusses the changes that were made. And then we can move to a vote to approve the changes that Ms. Raval made so that we can recommend those changes to council to update the ordinance.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's see if I can share my screen right quick. Okay, so we can go through this presentation. So basically the two major required updates were, are to create a process for recommending and designating historic districts, and also to create a process for issuing issuing certificates of appropriateness and reviewing applications. As a historic commission, you guys haven't necessarily done either of these yet, but they're things that we might intend to do in the near future. And these are two required updates that we have from the Georgia Historic Preservation Division to be in compliance, and it will allow us to do other things like receive grant funding. And so basically, long story short, this is required language from the state legislation. And to summarize, it says we have to review reports within 30 days. We have to hold public hearings and advertise them in the newspaper. And if an ordinance is adopted, there needs to be a provision for notifying the owners within a certain period of time. So then this is what our current text says. And then the improved text says similar things kind of, but it just kind of goes into more detail about what would be required.
Right. So I think Marissa circulated an ordinance to the council, and good afternoon, everyone. We've been on this meeting since 12:30, but it's good to see you all virtually. I hope everyone's been doing well. This section of the PowerPoint has been amended in the ordinance as section 57007. And when we designate the properties as historic properties, we have to make sure that they're shown in the official zoning map of the city, and then the requirements that Marissa just mentioned. And this is a part of the official code of Georgia annotated. So we have, the state legislature requires this, and we now have that in the ordinance as well, just so we can get this grant. So the details of that have been amended and included in this ordinance.
Okay, and then Zalek, do you want to also talk about the requirement for a certificate of appropriateness too?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Did you want to wait till it gets to the PowerPoint? Do you want to discuss it now? We can discuss it now if you'd like.
I think that when we go through the PowerPoint, everyone's received it in advance. And the PowerPoint just has what the current text is and then the amended text.
Right.
And so the next section for the PowerPoint was going to be the certificate of appropriateness section.
Okay. So we have included, again, the state legislature requires the Historic and Cultural Landmarks Commission to have a process for the certificate of appropriateness requirements and then the exemptions that go towards it. The exemptions are more so just for the Department of Transportation, and they've been enlisted in the ordinance itself. However, if you look at 57008 section of the ordinance that Marissa just sent out, it discusses what the requirements are. So I'm happy to read that out. After the council designates by this ordinance that the city council will be adopting a historic property, no material change in the appearance of that property or any kind of work of art within the historic district can be made or permitted to be made by the owner unless there's been an application for a certificate of appropriateness, which has been submitted to the commission. And then the other requirements are that they have to have drawings and photographs and plans that are also required by the commission, so the commission can review this thoroughly before making a decision one way or the other. And then there's an exception for the Department of Transportation and any contractors, including the cities and counties that are performing the work funded by DOT, which are exempt from this article. And then if you go down, then it talks about the procedure for the review of these different applications that you will be receiving as a board. And I can walk you through it as well. So section 57009 of the ordinance discusses the procedure for the review of these applications. So, for example, the commission shall take action as may be reasonably required to inform the owners of any property that will be affected by this, and give the applicant and any other owners, because it may be owned by one or more people, an opportunity to be heard. So this would be equivalent of a public hearing and the requirements of Open Meetings Act that the council will need to abide by. Just public notice needs to be presented. This needs to be put up on the website. And there are other open meetings and open recorded act requirements, which I will be happy to share with the council. So we comply with those requirements. But then moving down the procedure for review of applications, the commission has to approve the application and issue the certificate of appropriateness if it finds that the proposed material change in the appearance is not going to have any substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance. And you know, the council is very qualified to decide on these things, on the value of the historic property of the city of South Fulton. But so they will consider, in addition to pertinent factors, the historical and architectural value and significance, the style of the architecture, the general design, the arrangement, the texture, other features that are involved, and their relationship to the exterior, and then make that decision. And then they'll review the certificate of appropriateness applications, but they will not consider the interior arrangement or uses having no effect on the existing architectural features. So the commission will not be looking at things inside of the building to make this decision on an application of certificate of appropriateness. And if we were to keep going down, there are several different requirements of such nature, which the commission has to consider before they can either approve or deny a certificate of appropriateness. And the council may approve a certificate with limitations as well. So they can let an owner know that given if something doesn't change the exterior, but if the owner is having undue hardship and makes his or her case known to the council, then the council can approve or deny with limited requirements. So please review this ordinance, which lists the different actions that the council will require to take. But that being said, it incorporates everything that state law requires us to incorporate, and it incorporates additional things that the certified local government grant has required us to make to the ordinance as well. Does anyone have any questions?
So at this time, the procedure would be for us to approve or to make a recommendation to the city council that they adopt this revised ordinance?
That's correct, Mr. Mitchell. That would be the ideal next step, to go ahead and send this to the city council. So, you know, it can be approved, and then we can send this to to obtain the grant that we require.
Does any of the committee does anyone on the committee have any questions concerning what we're doing? The one thing we did not address at this time, I do not see any negatives or any reasons not to do this. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns?
No, not from my end.
No, I don't.
I don't at this time.
I concur.
Doctor, I have to yield to you on this because you had the opportunity to attend that meeting and kind of got a full volume of what was going on at that meeting. And best as you can determine, these changes are in line with what was presented to you?
Yes. I think we captured the relevant information, and that's a good job. And I think it's detail in the fact that what we really need, and I think she did an excellent job in explaining it. So I think we need to go forward in regards to this particular matter.
Can I get a motion on that we present this to the City Council for their approval?
Yes, I second the motion.
Well,
Yeah.
is that to say that Dr. Herring made the motion and then that was a second?
I'd like to add that I also agree to move forward.
Well, we're going to take a vote on it real quick. That's all in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Thank you very much for the additional work to get this ironed out and to provide a great explanation on what we're doing or what we need to do to improve or to bring our ordinance into compliance with the state requirements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to work on this and make sure that we get the grants that we need. In fact, they've only required us to add language that's consistent with state law, which I have, but then they've made several other recommendations to bring it in compliance for these grants. And I've included all of that extra information in there as well. And I'll send it to Nathan since he said that he will be bringing this to the city council. So I'll follow up with him and I'll send it to him, and we can get it adopted in the Muni code. But there's another thing that I'd like to bring to the council's attention, which is related to the bylaws. I know in the past we have approved them and adopted them, but then we've also discussed revisions that we wanted to make to them. So they're just minor revisions. For example, Ms. Christina made a good point earlier in our meeting that there's a sentence that said that the meeting required both a voice call vote and a ballot vote. And since we're in a pandemic, might be hard to get a ballot vote. So it's best to just leave it as voice vote. So there's just a few minor corrections that I need to make to the bylaws, and I'll send it over to Nathan again, who will send it to the city council.
That
Yes,
sounds
I really
great. Or
appreciate
if you
that.
want to, or if you want to just clarify that a voice vote is sufficient during virtual meetings.
Right. I can do that. I can clarify that.
Okay. I mean, if everybody's comfortable with that, I don't know that we would need to take a ballot vote on anything other than maybe when the next group comes in to select officers. But I believe that's the only reason why we went through that process this past time around. I really don't know that there would be anything that would come up that we cannot just do a vocal vote. So, but to leave it in there in case if you need it, or if the next group needs that, that would be the language. Hopefully that could take care of that.
Sounds good.
Were there any other modifications to the bylaws that we were discussing earlier from previous meetings?
Yeah,
I believe we had one or two little items.
we had a couple items. One of them was related to the number of people on the commission. In accordance with the ordinance, the number was a maximum of 10. 8 were to be elected members, and then 2 of them were to be ex officio members, which is the planning and development director and the building official, whose name is Brian Morris. So these are the other 2 officials, and I guess we just need to make that clear in the bylaws that they would be non-voting members, and only 8 members would be elected members of the city council, and of the city of South Bend. Was there a question? Today.
Yeah, I'd like to provide a point of clarification. The building official, his name is Brian Epstein.
Okay. I don't know where I got Brian Morris from. All right,
Brian Morris is the code enforcement director.
Okay. So we'll have to include those 2 members in our future meetings, but they will not be voting members. And I'll make this correction to the bylaws. I guess the other correction that we needed to make to the bylaws was the quorum for the for the meetings, and we've reached 5 since we only have 8 elected members. So we're gonna amend it to say 5 for the quorum. If everyone on the board is okay with that.
Is it okay for that ex officio language in the bylaws to be the the director of community development and or her designee? And then that way it gives us a little bit more broad latitude in case the director is not able to attend.
Yeah, I don't think that should be an issue, but I have to check with the city charter and make sure that a designee can step in.
Okay.
But it should be fine.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for all the work you're doing in straightening out our ordinance and clarifying these issues in the bylaws. That's keeps us on the straight and narrow.
Thank you. I'm honored to serve the city of South Fulton and happy to get this going so we can get the grants that we need. And then once the board has time to review the ordinance and go through all the requirements, I'm happy to answer any questions related to that as well. But I think that's all the changes that we made to the bylaws. The only other last addition that we made was to the rules of procedure. We said that the commission has the discretion to ask more questions or allot more time for public comment or questions as they see fit after a motion to do so. So that's the only other addition that will go into the bylaws that I will send to Nathan. That would be the clean copy. And I'll also include the council on it as well.
All right, good. We just want to make sure that if we do apply for any grants in the future, that we have a firm foundation and that we don't have any issues that arise out of procedure and protocol, because we don't have everything covered in our bylaws and ordinance. So thank you again.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I believe the next item on the agenda under new business, has everyone had a chance to take a look at the Campbellton Crossroads, or is there anyone not familiar with the Campbellton Crossroads project yet?
I'm only a little familiar with it, but further research is needed on my end.
Okay, there is an excellent website. Pond Company is actually doing the master plan for this, and they have put together a interactive map of the area where people can go in and actually put in comments concerning, putting in their concerns on the map about the redevelopment of the Campbellton Crossroads area.
What's the website?
Come back.
Storm, what is the website?
The easiest way to get there is just Google Campbellton Crossroads. And either you will be, there's several websites there. Either you can go through the Chattahoochee Hills portal or the City of South Fulton, and it will direct you to planning.pond/Hamilton Crossroads Master Plan. And it is actually, the website is being hosted by Pond. And it has a very good kind of an outline of where they are with their data collection. The young lady, Aubrey Saba, is working on a timeline of the history as best she can determine concerning Campbellton, the historic county seat of Campbell County, and especially just in that particular area. They're looking at the different items that they deem desirable to preserve in that area. And just to give you a rough layout as best we can, this is at the intersection of Highway 92 and 154, which is Campbellton Fairburn Road and Cascade Palmetto Road. The area between Cascade Palmetto Highway and the river is in Chattahoochee Hills. The area east of Cascade Palmetto is in the city of South Fulton. The area in Chat Hills has the most historic features that are desirable to preserve. That would be like there's a Campbellton Baptist Church, there's a monument where the courthouse used to sit, there is a Masonic Lodge, there are several cemeteries right there in the area. There is the former Campbellton Methodist Church, which has an historic cemetery adjoining it. And there are features along the river. There's the, I believe it's either the Beaver House or the Bullock House, I forget which it is, there that was at one time supposedly one of the oldest structures or oldest homes in South Fulton. And it's in a little bit need of repair, but that's going to be up to Chat Hills. The area then east of Cascade Palmetto is the area that is going to be available for development. Another couple of things on the west side between the river and Cascade Palmetto, we've got floodplain issues. We have the Metropolitan Atlanta River Protection Act, which extends 2,000 feet from the river, which actually takes a good strip out of that area that would be available for development. There are strict regulations on what you can do within that area. So that leaves a very narrow strip in Chat Hills that can be redeveloped. Currently, there's proposed a BP gas station on the northwest corner of the intersection. Then to the east, right now, they have not come forward with a master plan. I understand that may be presented this week through several meetings. As a matter of fact, one may have even, I think, happened this morning with some stakeholders. Thursday, they're going to have another one at noon, or around lunchtime, which they're going to present a initial master plan for what they envision that can happen in the city of South Fulton. I don't think that our committee is going to have a lot to say about it unless y'all see an avenue that we need to be involved. Most of that area that will be eligible for redevelopment in the city of South Fulton has older single-family residences on it. And there is one small commercial facility there, which is a print shop that's been there for easily 40 years. There is a cell tower, and the rest are single-family residences. So that will be an area that the concerns are in the community, or that whatever goes in there might change the lifestyle in the community. Many residents came out on Saturday and were concerned about the transportation, traffic problems that they're already experiencing there, as well as what impact this might have on the available utilities in the area. This area is not currently under public sewer. So that is a big hurdle that will have to be overcome. Does anybody else have anything to add about that, or any questions concerning, or anything that we may want to have some involvement in as far as the Hamilton Crossroads?
So Pond did mention that within 10 years, they might have a pump station, which will help the sanitary issues. Around that area, along the Chattahoochee, they're putting in a boat dock, which should be finished by September, October. So that will be an attraction, one of the attractions for that area. From a meeting this morning with Pond, they were sort of challenged with keeping the historical look on the Chattahoochee side, but really coming together with the South Fulton side to design that node where it's balanced between the two cities. So that's going to be one of the challenges that's before them. Yes, and that's what I have right now.
Thank you. Talking with the gentleman the other day, Saturday, kind of gave me the indication that he wanted to go to more of a, I'm not sure what the proper terminology would be, more of a modern architectural look for the city of South Fulton side that doesn't play well off of the Chat Hill side. The 2 or 3 structures that are over there kind of, I don't know, it lend itself back to the early 1900s.
Right, which is why they're trying to come up with more of a balance between the two. So that's going to be the goal of Pond.
Well, the concern would be where he was headed would be more of a contrasting look than a cohesive look. In other words, he was kind of like stepping out of the early 1900s, and he wanted to go straight into 2050. That's kind of the impression he gave me.
I think he kind of reeled it in a little bit. So he had mentioned a couple of cities that he's familiar with in I think it was South Carolina, and then he mentioned a couple of architects who are really good at fusing those two ideas. So he's definitely open to go that route.
Well, we had talked later about the possibility of, do we want to create a theme area, something like seaside or something like that style of architecture, so that the entire area is kind of homogeneous. In other words, it's not, you don't really have that contrasting look from one side of the road to the other. Right. So that was some of the things that we kind of discussed. I really think that's going to take input from the community to determine. I know that we're paying Pond. Well, actually, we're collectively paying Pond a good bit to come up with this plan, but we will be the ones driving through it every day. We will be the ones having to look at it. Yeah. So it may be helpful for us to have some input in that direction. I mean, they're happy to do something and say, I did this way down there, but they don't have to look at it every day. So any thoughts in that direction are appreciated.
Mr. Mitchell, I have a question.
Sure.
This is Ms. Talley. In terms of, I know that there are public meetings being held, but how, is this being shared with the city of South Fulton residents to provide input, beyond the public meetings? Are there any surveys out there to collect input for this project?
Ms. Talley, that is a great comment because several people that came to the meeting the other day, one lady was biting nails. I mean, she was really spitting fire when she came because she said she did not have any knowledge of that project until the day before on Friday of last week. And she was concerned that something like this could be going on without her knowledge. And she lives next door to the Methodist Church. So there is a lack right now of communication in that area. That was mentioned by several people at the meeting. And Pond is going to do their best to work with the cities to get out information to more people. They only reached out to a very small area. And many of the people that came to the meeting, there was one gentleman that came from the other side of Chat Hills. And his comment when he showed up was, frankly, he said, who does this benefit? Why are we doing this? And he was really kind of exploring both cities have more critical things they need to be addressing right now. And that was his point of view. And he said, I haven't heard a whole lot about this. So there is a critical need for expanding the scope of education and bringing in more people to understand what we're trying to do there if we hope for it to be, have any success at all. So I agree wholeheartedly with you. The best thing to do would be to maybe have the, I don't recall that on the City of South Fulton website that it is it's on the homepage. I think it is on the planning page. Dana, Marissa, clarify that if I'm wrong.
That is correct. It is on both websites. Did you want to speak, Christina?
I do, because I have some other insight. You go ahead with what is already there, but I have to jump off in a couple minutes. And so
go ahead, because I don't want to hold you up. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, we have broadened our communications and community engagement plan for this particular area. And so some of the things that we did prior to this pop-up meeting is we provide the consultant with a list from all the homeowner associations in the county footprint, in the city footprint altogether. We're looking at, when we do our next mailer, to do some targeted mailings with Every Door Direct through the United States Postal Service that allows us to buy out zip codes to be able to communicate more effectively. We did a press release, and we're working with our communications department to really ramp up communications around this. And so I just want to give the context that this project is one of 4 or 5 different planning projects that the city is involved in. And we typically get our guidance and our timeline for how to engage in these projects from the funder. In this case, that's ARC, with a small local city match. And so they pretty much outline what the timeline and the cadence and the pace of the plan is going to be. But the city actually is working to make sure that we hit all of those necessary communication touch points. And so that feedback is duly noted, and we've already started working on a plan of action to correct that.
Christine, thank you very much. And to catch you up on some of these other things that, so if you have to get off here in a few minutes, that was the biggest complaint. Ms. Talley, thank you for bringing that up, because these pop-up meetings that are available are advertised on the websites. And I think there's kind of correct me if I'm wrong, there was kind of a blanket invitation for the one last week. Dana was kind enough to send me an invite. Might it be possible that we make sure that it is open to anyone that wants to attend?
I can check with Pond You mean to attend the trying to type the words.
Virtual meetings, yeah.
The virtual meetings?
Yeah.
I'll
Yes.
because I don't know if they just want to do it as a representative, but I'll check. I'm sure it'll be okay.
And
Well,
Dana,
I think that Son has capability possibly of at least expanding to provide the PowerPoints that they have available for people to catch up on later if they can't actually get in these meetings.
Which is online.
Yes.
Yes.
and one of the other communication channels that I failed to mention was that we are putting these communications up on Nextdoor, and we're also sending them out through the city's Constant Contact newsletter communication. So we're trying in multiple ways to be able to make sure that we hit all of those populations. And then one of the things that we thought about that we didn't necessarily think about at the beginning of the project is how do you reach people who might be disabled? And so we have a partnership with Georgia Relay so that we have some added access and touch points for participation, because we're not trying to leave anybody out. The plan is going to be better. The more voices that we get into the plan, the more vision we're able to cast. And so we definitely, that feedback didn't fall on deaf ears. And we also put together what is called a citizen participation plan for the city. And so we're trying to standardize our methodology in terms of community engagement across the city.
Thank you. I just want to also make one note. I added the It's My Town app in our chat box. I noticed that I've received some communication through that particular app, and so that might be another outlet to consider sharing the information about these public meetings. I don't know what the impressions are on that particular site, but the more places we can share this information about this project, the better, to ensure that we are as inclusive as possible in getting community feedback.
It is on My Town.
It is? Okay.
Yes, Instagram, and I do believe Twitter as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I think that's a great plan, but my question is why we are not directly invited? That's my question. Because you're telling me all these great, wonderful platforms that you're disseminating information, but I never heard once that you said that this commission will receive the invitation directly, because here again, all of that planning that you have done, first and foremost, commend you for doing it, but I did not hear about anything that was directly coming to this commission. So I would ask you to take a look at that, and prayerfully that we can come to the conclusion and say, we will add you to the list.
Absolutely.
Just a comment.
Absolutely. And that feedback is definitely appreciated. I was under the impression that the Historic Commission had been selected by the consulting firm as part of kind of the core planning team. And if that was a assumption that I made erroneously, I definitely take the hit for that. I was brought into this process about 2 weeks ago. And so we've tried to, button everything up, but we will make sure that you get specific invitations to participate in this planning effort and make sure that we don't drop that ball in the future.
Thank you. I thank you for taking the responsibility, but that was not a direct comment toward you. That was just the fact that we was not engaged in it. That's all.
No, that's perfect. The only way that we're going to get better is if we actually have, authentic and candid dialogue around ways to get better. And so I don't take any of that, feedback personally. I just want us to have a good, transparent. So thank you all so much for, serving in this capacity. Look forward to working with everyone.
Well, thank you also again. Welcome aboard. Real quick, any more questions or concerns about the County Crossroads? I think if Dana, if you can see if we can get invitations out to the membership so that they can be involved or be a little bit closer to the involvement of this.
Yes.
Not that it is fully in our historic realm yet, but maybe we can guide some of the development that will kind of bring forward some of the history of that area, even though it may be kind of in the background. There may be some things we want to bring forward from that area in South Fulton.
Yes, I will.
So thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
I'll take some responsibility for that one as well. For not including that.
I think it's just spreading, expanding our umbrella a little bit more than it is right now.
Right.
Because the more heads you have on this thing, it may get a little bit complicated down the road, but I think having everyone's input makes it a lot easier for people to accept what we get, if that's a good way to put it. Moving on real quick, we have we're talking about preparing a historic preservation plan. I think one of our first steps will be to go in and maybe each of us can kind of start a list of things that we feel like that we should identify as being on the historic plan. Maybe this is something that Christine has already thought about, and maybe Nathan as well. I know Dana and Marissa have probably has some things in the back of their minds, and I know each of the members probably do as well. I'm thinking like we want to go ahead and identify churches that may be in excess of 20 years old, or if not all of them, historic cemeteries, because we have just about every historic church has a cemetery associated with it, such as Owl Rock, Campbellton, which is actually not in, there is a Campbellton church. There are 3 churches that were actually in that Campbellton area, but it's now all in Chat Hills. There's the church. We have churches all over South Fulton. There's one down on Rivertown Road that I'm thinking of. There's one there in Red Oak. They all have the cemeteries associated with them. And maybe this is one of the things that we want to start inventorying.
This is Nathan here. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Well, I just wanted to mention quickly, the city will be doing a new comprehensive plan starting this fall for next fiscal year. And we've discussed internally including historic preservation planning as part of that comprehensive plan, which I think is a really good place to piggyback on because funding will be there and the documents are very obviously intertwined. So I would expect some serious discussion and serious action on this over the next 12 months because we know it's a policy document that needs to happen, and we're going to be creating the documents relative to that. So I would anticipate a lot more happening on this soon and over the next year.
Super. Nathan, appreciate you being on board as well. Also, the members of the committee, if y'all can think of anything, kind of put a list together of things that you think should be identified, especially potential structures in the area that may qualify, even though we have to have the owners buy in to designate them, we probably need to identify what some of the structures might be so that we might even approach those owners about whether or not we want to put some sort of designation on their properties. There are still several houses I know in the Cliftondale area that were probably built early 1900s. And whether or not they are in any shape to be added to some sort of a list, or whether or not the owners would want to have them added to a list, is something that we still have to figure out down the road. But any thoughts in that direction?
Yes, Mr. Mitchell, I believe I thought we had started an inventory prior to our March meeting. So maybe we just need to continue to work with that. I think, Ms. Guest, you started opening that up for us probably. So if we can just continue to add to that list or revisit it, we do have a starting point.
Great. Is that something we can bring forward to the next meeting? And we'll just go ahead and bring that list forward so we can kind of go over what we have to date.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, let's go around the table. I guess that's a way to call it. Do we have any comments from any of the membership?
Well, the only comment that I would pass along at this juncture in regards to your last comments about speaking to residents in regards to their properties. I think before we do that, I would request that we have some type of educational period so that we'll know exactly what we're talking about and show the value to the community person or community itself at large, the value that it would bring to the community when we're talking about designations. So I would just add, there has to be some type of training mechanism or an overview of an educational perspective. I may be wrong in that environment with those comments, but I think that is warranted.
Doctor, I think that's perfectly on target. I think that would be very helpful because there's no sense in us trying to designate something that's about ready to fall in or that the owner has no intention or desire to have added to the list. So that's a great point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the city that have a comment?
I just want to say this has been a very productive meeting as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you for being on board, and look forward to meeting face-to-face down the road. I understand, just out of curiosity, has the recent pullback on reopening changed the South Fulton's schedule of reopening?
Not as of right now. So we're
Okay,
scheduled.
because I know that y'all were talking about bringing.
Go on.
Y'all were talking about coming back, reopening some of the offices as of yesterday. I didn't know if that was happening still.
No, that is not. We're scheduled to be in the office part-time starting in August and then full-time after Labor Day. And that's the tentative plan right now.
Okay, great.
The governor has, I'd just like to chime in, the governor has extended the emergency for another month, and it's likely that he will extend it for another month after that. So I don't really see the cities opening up like they should, because we should probably pass ordinances in accordance with the governor's ordinance. He has increased it from 10 people, like the CDC has said, to 50 people. But that being said, it's doubtful that the cities should be reopening anytime before August 11th. Should not be opening before August 11th.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Yeah, if I hear anything more, and if anything else is decided, I know it'll get passed through the systems here, but I have not heard anything new aside from first week of August.
Right. It's so hard to predict this because we don't have a cure and the numbers are rising up, and it might get extended until even September. And we'd have to continue with our virtual meetings, I think.
Well, we just have to kind of play it by ear, I think, and that's as long as this is comfortable with everybody, full speed ahead. Everybody take care and be safe out there. Anything else for the good of the committee? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I second that motion.
Well, we just need a motion to begin with.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Great. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all taking your time today. And if anything comes up, don't hesitate to holler at me. And if if it's something that would be of interest to the group, blast it out to everybody, and we'll stay in touch.
All righty.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Be
All right,
well.
same to you.
Thank y'all.
Mhm.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.